game. Obviously, the game Cleveland needed down 0-2 after losing the first two games at home. The second game was a game they gave away to the Indiana Pacers, a game they definitely should have won. So now that is also a 2-1 series, setting up for today's two other games. Boston Celtics, we're going to have to obviously get to talk about this in more detail. Shockingly, the New York Knicks pulled out two games in Boston and are up 2-1 going into home. What does this mean, obviously, for Boston? Now, what does it mean for the Knicks? A lot of experts believe the Knicks need to win game 3. If they allow Boston to win game 3, they'll lose the series. So we'll get to talk about that. Then the other game tonight is Minnesota at Golden State. That's an 8:30 game, ABC. The Knicks today, 3:30 on ABC, hosting the Boston Celtics. And then obviously Minnesota tonight at Golden State. Right now this ties at 1-1. The question on this is basically, can Golden State win without Steph Curry? Because Steph Curry will at least miss he'll miss today, the third game. Fourth game might be iffy if he can get back for that. Could Minnesota be up 3-1 before Steph Curry gets back? That's going to be the question. Golden State is going to have to find a way to win this game. We'll also talk a little NFL, look at, again, some of the drafts. Giannis, rumor is obviously he's going to be traded. Other NBA news, and NBA, the Miami Heat, Riley looking to retool the team. Looks like obviously after a poor showing, and that's being nice, against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Riley looks to retool the Miami Heat to get back to basically to be a competitive team in the playoffs. They were non-competitive. The Jimmy Butler situation blew up, traded Butler to Golden State. The team just realistically wasn't a very good team, and it's going to be interesting to see how much Riley can retool it to bring it back to being a competitive team, especially in the NBA East, where teams were below 500. We saw Detroit turn it around in 1 year. Can Riley work the same magic with the Miami Heat? So got that to get to. Rumors, or at least getting in the NFL, some speculation is already, does Shedeur Sanders even make the roster? Why did Cleveland Browns draft Dylan Gabriel if they were going to go ahead and draft Shedeur Sanders? Did you really need both Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders? I know we touched a little bit about it last week, but we'll look more into that. And then anything else, obviously, in our show that kind of can creep up and rear its head, we always talk about those items too. Dave Clark, your impressions on the playoffs so far. What do you think? I'm assuming you did not watch the game. I'm not sure. Did you stay up last night to watch the marathon game between Oklahoma City and Denver?
Yep, seen it all.
You watched it all.
Yeah. I was asleep during the day, so I was able to be up last night. I went to sleep kind of earlier, when I woke up, it was the second quarter of the Cavs game, and then I was just up then, so I went on and watched that entire game, and it was second quarter of Cleveland, but all I did is once I clicked it on, I just didn't look at that part, rewinded it all the way back and watched all Cleveland and watched that second game. And the playoffs period has been really good. I mean, we talked about it during March Madness that when the NBA playoffs come, it should be pretty good, but I think it's a little higher than I expected. I mean, this has been some shock waves everywhere. I mean, to see how Indiana came out and stayed together as a team, to be able to go up 2-0 on Cleveland like that, and watch our Knicks go and do what they did in Boston. Man, I mean, just everything. And then Denver jumped out. Even though I thought that was the end of the series. After I seen that game, that second game, I thought that was it, but they showed their wear and tear as a championship team. So that series looked like 7. 6-7 for sure. Same thing with probably the Cavs and also the Knicks.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the interesting with Cavaliers is, in my eyes, because I've seen it, the Cavaliers gave that game away. The second game of the series.
Yeah.
Obviously, Cleveland should have won game 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody's ever going to debate it. They gave that game away. And I think bottom line is you can't give away games in the playoffs. You know it, I know it. Now can the Cavs recover enough to come back and win that series after being down 0-2 at home? They did, obviously, last night. They went out and they played with, now it seems like the players that were hurt came back. But they look like a different team, though. They played, obviously, with their backs to the wall, and they did come out and deliver with a really big win last night. I liked the fact that if they can pull off and tie the series 2-2, and they'll need to obviously win the next game in Indiana, because they can't go down 3-1 to Indiana. That's going to be where we always talk about the fourth game of the series being it's like the old fork in the road. Where is this series taking us? That fourth game, especially when it's a 2-1. Can the team tie it at 2-2? Now you're going to have 6 or 7 games, or do they dump? If they lose and go down 3-1, then it's pretty much a done deal. It looks like it's going to be a 5 or maybe a 6 game series, and so that next game with the Cavaliers is really big. I think you're right. Denver and OK City, it just has 7 games written all over it. Denver being, they were bounced out last year, but they won it the year before in 23. They're the seasoned professionals. They're the old pros. They've been there. They've done it. And, Oklahoma City, the new team on the block, or, still people question being the young team, the new team. Can they, adjust to the playoffs? Because great regular season, regular season is fantastic as Cleveland, and that's kind of the same,
It's the same for Cleveland too. That's
with Cleveland, yeah. New Indiana, team on the block.
Yep. I like how, even though they took care of business yesterday, I still see they can't falter any, because every time they went up big, Indiana did fight back into that last run. They couldn't come back from that, but those other 3 that during the game, they just came back from it. They showed a lot of mettle to be able to do that, and that's concerning. But that's what I'm saying. What you have OKC and Cleveland now seeing what it's all about when it comes to this time in the playoffs. It's not the same at all as the regular season, as they dominated some of these teams, but they could not do that. Make a team. You figure a team that that's why Denver shows so much by. You get beat like that, sometimes teams go and fold up. But that shows you that the championship medal, that they stuck right in there, came back. They're at home, and they were not going to be denied. Even though they went down 12, 14 points, they still came right back and showed that medal. And, that's what it's what you said earlier is big. Cleveland has to win the next one. They have to. It's the same thing with Boston. They cannot, even though you always got to worry about them to come back. They got that team that could definitely come back, could win 4 straight, but they have to win this next one first, one at a time. And they don't want to go down 3-0 to the Knicks, but I think they'll play a little bit more freer. They're in New York this time than being tight. And they shouldn't have been tight as championship team, but they look that way. But if you was watching that telecast, Pat, Barkley made a good analogy of one thing. Porzingis is not playing. That's a different team. That advantage with him, where he can shoot threes and go down low and be a mismatch. They don't have that. And now they rely on threes all day, and they need to quit shooting as many. I give Brown a lot of credit for trying to make sure a conscious effort to go to the basket, whereas Tatum didn't do that. He kept shooting a lot. I went to the basket some, but he mainly shot from the outside, and their shooting was just horrible.
Yeah, I heard Charles Barkley. He was on Mad Dog Russo yesterday, and he said exactly that. He believes the Boston Celtics will not win an NBA title without Porzingis. They will not win. They need Porzingis to win an NBA title. He was really adamant about that, and as you just said, it's a different team. Porzingis gives them a different look. As far as to guard, he just puts them at a different level, offensively and defensively. He makes blocks. He plays solid defense. The point is, Charles said that if they don't have Porzingis, Boston cannot win an NBA title. Now, obviously, and he also said the point where that if, against the Knicks, obviously they need Porzingis to beat the Knicks. Now, it seems to me, at least Mad Dog said it, Charles agreed that if Boston wins game 3, they'll win the series against the Knicks, that the Knicks need to put them away at game 3. Now, I look at Boston and New York, being the Knicks fan all my life. Knicks not only have to win game 3, but they need to win game 4. And why I say this is because if there's a team that could come back from being down 3-0, first time in NBA history, it could be this Boston team. If there's a team that could allow that to happen, it could be this Knicks team. So not only do the Knicks have to win today, I'm convinced they better win game 4, because the way Boston is structured, they're such a hot and cold team. And right now, the Knicks, I think that they didn't get lucky. It's just that Boston just could not shoot 3, and they don't have a plan B. You and I talked about this so many times with Boston. Boston sits there and they get infatuated with a 3-point shot, and then they have no plan B. It's like, okay, let's back off it. Let's work the ball down low. Let's work it for a couple mid-range shots or a couple layups. Let's get fouled. Let's get to the free throw line. Let's kind of, make the Knicks play better defense, because we're going to drive it down inside and get fouls and create a little turmoil on the Knicks. And then we're going to catch our breath and score some points. But they're up 20 points and they keep launching up 3 after 3 after 3, and they keep missing it. And it's like, you don't need threes. Just get your layups. Get a couple mid-range jumpers. You've got a 20-point lead. Yeah. But they just 2 games in a row. Mm-hmm. This team is managed, and then the Knicks, you got to give them a lot of credit. It's a different team than it was. I was concerned. I didn't think this team was nearly as good as last year's team, but maybe not in the regular season. And then we'll get all the discussion, what it means about the regular season when we talk about it. Unfortunately, the regular season means nothing. It's the playoffs. And the Knicks are a fine example of that.
Yeah. I mean, that defensive pressure they put up is completely different than in the regular season. For sure.
Exactly.
And I looked at that team and I said, boy, I mean, if they could have got that trade that they got for Towns without giving DiVincenzo up, I'm looking at him on that team, and you still have, you'd have to give up Julius Randle, but if you had DiVincenzo on there, man, that pressure in the backcourt would just be ridiculous, and that's what I see coming from the Knicks and that. So and Hartstein, I don't want to forget him. If he's not at OKC. And he's another guy big coming off the bench with Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah, Robinson.
I mean, that would be a lot of problems for Boston. I mean, or for any team. So I see it a lot better than I thought. They showed they got it. And Brunson didn't have a great game. So to win without him having it, and you can't get upset with him because that guy's been playing out of his mind. So, I look for him to come back today, but it's going to be hard. The only thing I worry about, they're at home. And sometimes teams tend to get, I don't want to say relax, but you're at home cooking. Sometimes you keep a real chip on your shoulder and the edge to you when you playing on the road. It's a big difference. You get home, you get a little relaxed. The crowd's behind you. Sometimes that doesn't work in your favor of keeping that playoff edge. So we're going to find out, because I'm sure if Boston does get off to a lead like you were talking about, maybe, just maybe, they'll learn something and go inside and preserve that lead. And because when they kept shooting those threes, they off and running, and they were scoring at will like that too. New York was. So they can't get into that. They got to pound it down inside and use some of those guys at their advantage. I mean, Tatum should be going in. Brown, at least he does go in there. Tatum should be going in there because of his length. He's just a long guy, hard to, really cover inside. And his quickness, usually Towns is guarding him. You got to take Towns to the boards and get him in foul trouble.
Exactly. And that's the other point to this is, first of all, with the Knicks playing at home, I think the Knicks have a tendency to either play relaxed or they get tight. Boston plays better on the road. I think sometimes Boston plays better in New York and New York plays better in Boston.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, but it always seems. I've seen the Knicks, people get cranked up about the home court. I've seen the Knicks blow a lot of playoff games at home. It's just reality. Yeah. I don't think they nearly play as well at home as what people think they do. So I think in a roundabout way, you brought up a good point. They kind of get a little relaxed or they get too tight in front of that crowd. Boston now has got their back to the wall. They're playing in New York. They're going to have a hostile crowd. I think it's going to actually help Boston more than hurt Boston. Right now, Boston, just if you're a betting person, is actually a 5.5 point favorite to win. And New York Saturday today at 3:30. But getting with New York, if they could have kept DiVincenzo on that team, it would have been a really good looking team with his ability to shoot. Yeah. Saying that, the Knicks to me have not played that well. These two games they beat Boston, the Knicks didn't look good. People keep calling it about Boston shooting 3-3-3. The Knicks haven't played well. They played okay, but they haven't played they didn't play two great games here. I didn't look at the way the Knicks played and say, boy, they really played two great games. They did not. Right. It's just that Boston handed them these games with what we've always criticized them for. Their infatuation with wanting to shoot the three ball, they get to the point where, again, they get tunnel vision, and we're launching this ball up. And Tatum is a great player, but then he's another one. He likes to pound the ball, and then he gets infatuated with launching the ball from 3-point land, and they're great when they fall, but when they're not falling, you're gonna allow a team that hasn't played that well into the game, and in this case, lose 2 games to a Knicks team, to me, that hasn't even played their best game.
Yeah. I compare the NBA in some regards, to the NFL when it comes to playoff. And what I mean by that is we disregard the running back position during the regular season. It's not. But when you get to the playoffs, you better be able to run the football, or you're not going to be real successful. Yeah. You have to run the ball and pound it. It's the same thing I feel in basketball. Instead of all day long shooting threes, you should be doing the mid-range and getting guys down low, taking advantage of their size mismatches. But sometimes teams shy away. You can't do that. You got to go down. That's why the series in Denver and OKC is so good, because both of those teams, they shoot threes, but they sure enough still go down inside. And they'll go inside with Hartstein and Holmgren. And I mean, even Shea, he drives to the basket, and on the other way, Murray shoots threes, but he drives to the basket. We already know Jokic will go down there and do what he has to do. So, I mean, that's how you win playoff basketball or football, doing the things that's always been around for ages, not just shooting up threes and running around like crazy like they were doing. I mean, after a while, if I'm 5 out of 29, I think it sounds like it's time to stop shooting so many. I mean, you're shooting 20% from the 3-point line. It's time to shut that down a little bit and go to a plan B. But as you said earlier, there's no plan B. We haven't seen it yet, so maybe they'll take it out to storage today and be able to go inside, outside, and play a complete game.
Yeah, I mean, I really. I would love to see the Knicks win today.
Yeah,
I hope they win today.
I want to see them take them out and just get them out of there.
I want the Knicks to take them out in 4 because I have being a Yankee fan. I was thinking this, being the Yankee fan that I am, 2004 will always be in the back of my mind. The only team, baseball, that ever came back from being down 3-0, the Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees.
Yeah, and it had to be that too, didn't it? Yes. It had to be that serious. It could have been a different team. It had to be Boston.
Exactly right. And that's what I mean. It could have been a different team. I wouldn't have cared, but it was Boston. And I see Boston Celtics and the Knicks, and I think that the Knicks better do them in 4. Get rid of them in 4 games straight. Sweep them and get rid of them.
Yeah.
Because I just think that once Boston wins, they're going to get their life back. They are the better team on paper. They're not playing like it, but they are. Now the Knicks may, if the Knicks could start to play a better game than they get against Boston the first 2 games. But the Knicks kind of play the same way. They play gritty, hard, in your face, slow the ball down. They did against Detroit. Detroit wasn't supposed to be a great team, but they gave the Knicks, all those games with Detroit were pretty much down to the final possession.
Yeah, those real good, hard-nosed, old-time NBA basketball. So, that's what I like. And that's the kind of game that New York has to have Boston in if they want to shoot threes. You try to keep that limited if you can the same way and still be tough on the defensive end and bang these guys around a little bit because they're not crazy about being knocked around too much.
No, they're not. And you see, to me, Boston, their comfort zone, the Celtic comfort zone is shoot 3. That's what they like to do. They like to shoot the 3 ball. That's their comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Now, if you make them drive inside, shoot mid-range ball, they'll do it, but they don't like to do it. No. But when they're hitting the threes, they're literally unbeatable. They won the title last year, but if you look at the way they went through, they had an easy path. Some experts believe Boston had an easy path to an NBA title last year.
Right.
This year, now obviously not so much. They didn't look that great against Orlando. They won. Mm-hmm. They didn't look that good. They find themselves down 0-2 to Nick. I'm waiting, though, for Boston, maybe being the Knick fan that I am, I'm waiting for Boston to turn the page here.
Yeah, we'll see if they can. Hopefully not. That's what I'm hoping. I would love to, even though the game is played different, so I don't know how much effect these guys will have, but give me Oakley, give me Mason, and let's see if anybody wants to go down low with those guys. But they're not going to go down low anyway too much. I mean, like I said, the only guy from the perimeter that likes to go down inside is Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown is.
Yeah, he does. He'll shoot threes. Yeah, he does. He shoots them, but he doesn't mind at all going down in there and banging around with guys. So, if that's who they need to go to, then go to them, because that's where they need to be at times, and that'll keep New York off balance if they can do that. And then that 3-point line will just open up for all their guys that are very, very good 3-point shooters. But they have not had their way, the way they've been playing. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, they shot in the first game. When you look at the way they played, they obviously, their first game, they shot 60 3-pointers. They made 15 of 60. Yeah. There's our music. We're at the quarter. We'll be back. Talk more NBA basketball after a real quick timeout on Western Reserve Radio, 330-707-4202 if you want to get in and talk sports. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark, back after a quick timeout.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio, take one.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Western Reserve Radio is the Valley's online source for sports talk and local live events. Tune in and be a part of their live weekly shows, as well as all of the hard-hitting action of Youngstown Phantoms hockey, high school football, and the GDFL. Find them at westernreserveradio.com. Tune in and the Live 365 app to be a part of the area's sports conversation. Be sure to visit them on Facebook at Western Reserve Radio and on Twitter at WR_radio.
So why do teenagers play high school sports?
My reason why is a sense of purpose.
My reason why is to inspire others.
One reason student athletes seldom mention is to get an athletic scholarship. They know that only 2% of all high school athletes are awarded a sports scholarship. So why do they play?
My reason why is friendship.
Tell us your reason using the hashtag #MyReasonWhy.
This message presented by the NFHS and the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
Saturday morning sports page coming right back at you. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. Second quarter of the show as we motor through the playoffs today. We'll talk, like I said, we'll get into a little NFL, talk the draft. I still think there's still a buzz with Shedeur Sanders. I think this is just going to be pretty much par for the course.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're not going to use the timeout.
So anyway, yeah, we'll see what happens ultimately. We'll talk about the draft. What does it mean? Some of these teams going forward. I know it's only May, but it's NFL. We know that the NFL is 24/7.
Oh yeah,
365, right, Dave Clark?
Yeah, there's no off season in the NFL.
we have no off
years
season.
ago when they used to do that.
Nothing.
I mean, way back. There's no off season now.
No, there's absolutely no off season. Like I said, we talked a little bit about the draft. We're going to get to that more in the second hour, but we'll still talk first hour. These playoffs, you brought it up earlier. I'm pleasantly surprised. Usually they're very chalky.
Yeah, not this time.
Not this year.
No, this is excellent drama.
You could take the chalk and throw it out.
Oh, yeah.
Because the bottom line now, we were talking about the Celtics. They were 10 in the second game. They had 40 attempts. They made 10 out of 40 for the 3-point. So anyway,
20%.
Bottom line is they were 10 out of 40. It's been 25%. They were 15 out of 60.
Same percentage.
Game 2.
Same exact percentage. Isn't that something? They shot less, but it's the same percentage, 25%.
That's the part. 25%.
Yeah.
For both games back to back. They were so basically they've shot 100 3-pointers in 2 games. 60 in the first game, 40 in the second. The percentage has been 25%.
Yep.
So they didn't learn anything from the first game to the second game.
Nope. Not really.
So this is what's probably going to it's definitely going to be high theater today at 3:30 on ABC. I think it's going to be I love to see what the ratings are going to be.
Yeah.
Because bottom line is going to be people, especially in the New York area and even obviously Boston, they will be glued to their TV sets because everybody wants to see what's going to happen in Game 3.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And they would see if they can get away from just shooting threes all day and actually work the ball inside. Like I said, they're going to have Tatum needs to get in there. And we know Jaylen Brown will. But those two guys have to. I don't look for a guy like Horford to post up. He's never been a post player. So I'm not looking for when he gets in there to do that. I know he will shoot from the outside. But, those other two guys have to make some type of presence from the mid-range and then down low. They have to. Yeah. And that changed. And like I said, now Boston's on the road. Sometimes you tend to focus more because when you go into a hostile areas, that means your surroundings is not what you're used to. So you're a little bit more alert. You're a little bit more aware of everything that's going on and what you need and don't need to do. You sometimes you're more conscious to detail when you're away from home. And it's just like normal everyday life. You go to a neighborhood or to an area you're not familiar with, a lot of times your head is on a swivel to make sure what's going on around me a lot better than if I was in my own area where I stay at. I'd probably be more relaxed. I know this area, I know this, but really you shouldn't be like that anytime. But that is the normal conscience of what people do. They're more relaxed when they're at home.
Right.
In your own home than you would at someone else's that you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Boston might be more aware. We're going to see how focused the Knicks can be also. Because you haven't had a big game from Towns either yet.
No,
he has rebounded the ball well. I got to give him that. He's been getting double-doubles up. We haven't seen his 20-something, maybe 25 points in a game with those rebounds. Let's see how that responds. And also Jalen Brunson playing at a high clip. That could be a problem for Boston if that happens, especially if they fall in with that 3-pointers again.
Yeah, game number 2 kind of reads like this: is Towns had 17 rebounds, 14 defensive, 3 offensive rebounds. He had an assist. He had 21 points. Brunson actually not one of his better games for game 2. He was 6 for 9, 19 in field goal percentage, 2 out of 9 from 3-pointer. He was 3 from 4 from the field goal line. He was 17 points. Not really. Actually, Josh Hart actually had a better game.
Oh, yeah. Josh Hart had a great game.
He had really a great game.
On the boards and scoring.
Yeah, he had 6 rebounds. He was 9 for 15 from the field. He was actually he was 50%. He was 3 from 6 from 3-point land. Mm-hmm. So Josh Hart actually might have played one of his best games there. So where Brunson kind of lacked, Josh Hart picked up the slack.
Yeah. And he usually plays a good, hard basketball game anyway. So his consistency is usually pretty good because that's just what he's an energy guy, and he will score. He'll play. He'll do whatever. He'll score. He just wanted the dirty, as you say, the dirty work type guy. He does stud everything. So he usually he stays pretty consistent. Now can you get, I just thought, and I didn't mean to change gears real quick, but Anunoby, I don't want to leave this guy out because we're talking about the other ones, but that guy has been playing great. Offensively and defensively. Yeah. He's been doing a great job, and he's that unsung guy. We don't even hear nothing. But his points totals, I think he was up there he might have been near 30, but I know his defensive prowess and everything, he has been really playing good. He's definitely.
Yeah, I know we didn't have. I'll look up his first. His second game. First game, he had the better game, but this game, known for more defense, he didn't have a great offensive game this time around. He only had 5 points. He had 5 rebounds. He has a tendency to get the rebound, the big rebound when you need it.
Yeah,
and I think the guy, too. But the player that's kind of come out of the woodwork for the Knicks, and I know people, I'll have to raise my hand, is I kept saying, well, this Mikal Bridges, during the regular season, this guy, he's not really that, he's not as good as yada, yada. Well, I have to eat my words and I'll do it every day. Mikal Bridges has really stepped up in the playoffs and really against Boston.
Yeah. He's been looking like the Bridges that I seen at the Suns. At certain times, he definitely played well out there. He used all of his attributes to his advantage. He's long. He can give you problems when he's on defense, and then it's hard to get to his mid-range jumper. He has a fadeaway,
right?
That's just hard to get to with him being, and then he extends his arms completely above his head when he shoots. So you got a guy like that long, fading away. And he was on. He's playing great defense. So if they can keep that going, you need that from him there. But that's what we done seen with the Knicks. Different guys have stepped up. And if you can continue to have that, you can really stick in these games. You need. I love when Shaq always say, you got your stars, but the others are the guys that are so important. And that's who you got to see. They always talk about the others. When you're at home, those are the guys you look to need them to step up, and we'll see if they will.
Well, and that's just about in any sport. Like, I just think back, and to kind of go off, but like I remember back when the Yankees won those World Series back in the 70s. They had, in 78, they won a World Series because they had a guy like Brian Doyle play unbelievable baseball. Who the hell was he? He was the MVP I believe he was a co-MVP of 78 World Series. No one ever heard of him. But that's the kind of player, if you're going to win a title, and that's really about any sport, like in the NBA, when you can get a guy that's pretty much been playing regular season average player, but when they step up their game, and it like Mikal Bridges has, and even Anunoby has had some really clutch rebounds and great defensive plays. That's the difference of you pulling out 2 games back to back against Boston, because these guys kind of come out of the woodwork. And Mikal Bridges has really played good.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what and I think obviously if the Knicks are going to beat Boston in the series, and granted they know it's not over by any stretch of the imagination, but they're going to have to continue to get really good play from Mikal Bridges, Ginobili, and potentially someone else coming off the bench.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the guard that he had a very timely baskets in his last game 2. I can't think of his name, number 2. But he come in off the bench, and usually he'll come in he play with Brunson too. They play together, but sometimes he'll come in for Brunson because they used him instead of Payne. Cameron Payne, that usually comes in, but he did not play at all.
No,
and
they haven't used, for some reason, they have not used.
Not in that game. He played the other one, but he did not play in game 2. He shortened his bench, though. He shortened his bench to only a couple guys off, and Tibbs will do that. He'll go from playing 9 guys to playing 6 or 7 if he has to. So, when things get to a certain limit now, maybe he'll use more bench being at home for this game, but you had guys that definitely came off the bench.
Yeah, Miles McBride, I think, is who
that's what I'm talking about right there. Yep.
Yeah, Miles McBride is funny player because but he was 2 for 3 from the field, and he was 1 out of 2 for the from 3-point land. He put up 5 points, and he had an assist and a steal. But he's another one that has a tendency to hit that big shot when you need it. Mm-hmm. When the pressure's on or you need to stay within, a single digit, and he'll come in and hit a big 3, make a steal, do something like that. Mitchell Robinson rebounds. He can't shoot a free throw. We know that, but he rebounds. He plays tough defense, gives Towns a breather. If they could just get Mitchell Robinson to be better from the free throw line, teams obviously wouldn't foul him. But here was the other thing that I didn't understand is, and this is what a lot of criticism of Boston came in that game. They kept fouling Mitchell Robinson to get the Knicks into the bonus, which made no sense in that game. And no one and then when they were doing it, I'm thinking, why is Boston fouling Mitchell Robinson so the Knicks can get into the bonus? That didn't make any sense. And they were a lot of criticism on talk radio. It was like, what was Boston thinking? What were they doing?
Yeah, and what they do is, I don't get why they do it, but what they were thinking is, if you can get him on the line, he missed 2, and you keep doing, you can keep scoring, and then you foul.
Right.
If you're behind or anything close, you can get way ahead. But the problem with that is if he sinks 1, if he goes 50%, really, that's a plus for the Knicks.
Right.
And then once it hits after the 2 minutes, now you're already in the bonus, and now they'll take him out, bring somebody else in, and then they'll go to the basket so they can get fouled and stay on the line. And that's the downfall of doing that. And I forgot which game somebody was doing that in another game, and I just didn't understand. I said, why are you continuing to do that? And then the guy was actually hitting. I remember we talked about it, but I can't remember which playoff game, because these playoffs has been really good. So it might have been a team that got eliminated. I don't know, but they kept fouling the center thinking he was going to miss, and he was actually hitting this. Oh, I know what it was. It was Houston. When they kept hitting, what's his name? The big center that Houston has. Used to play for OKC and a couple, Stephen's last name, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The Mountain Man, I call him. But they kept fouling him and fouling him, but he kept hitting his shots. And I said, why are you doing that? But Golden State continued to do that all the time. And it seemed like it's a dumb strategy, because the one game they did do that, and Houston was able to win that game because of him being on the line, able to hit his shots. So I didn't understand that. And they probably will still do it. I never understood that strategy, because you put yourself in that last 2 minutes, you're going to be in the penalty. And if you're smart on the other team, you just take that guy out. You take him out.
Yeah, and that's basic. Yeah,
and Mitchell Robinson's got to get some. He's got to get confident at the line. Even if you miss him, you can't miss him like he was doing, shooting under the basket.
He didn't even hit the rim. The one.
Yeah, I mean it went up under. Yeah. I said, no,
he didn't
have no arch, no nothing.
Net. No,
let's get some arch on it because he's actually straight line. He's doing that good. He has no arch at all, and it shouldn't be like that. Yep.
Yeah, to give you an idea, like we were talking about Mikal Bridges and Ginobili. Ginobili he played a fantastic first game where he had 29 points. He was actually 6 from 11 from 3-point land. You could make the argument he might have been the reason why they beat Boston in game 1. And then Bridges had the better of the game 2. Mm-hmm. Bridges had an okay game 1, but he was 3 for 13. He only had 8 points, but he did have 6 rebounds. He played pretty good. Was Bridges the player that took the ball in game 1?
1 and 2. Think about, remember?
Yeah.
At the end, he did it twice.
He did it twice. Where Brown had the ball for game 1, going to hit a 3, and Bridges basically took it away from him.
Yeah, he just snatched the ball right out of his hands.
And then the other one he blocked. Tatum was trying to take a shot, and he blocked it. Bridges knocked it away.
Yep. Right. And it was just something. It was like deja vu. It was just crazy. The same guy in a big moment makes big plays. So they want to keep that. They want to keep whatever vibe they got going. They want to keep that going today because I think this is so important for Boston. If they can win, it changes the narrative on everything.
Yeah, and I think Boston is still favored to win the series.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they, because this looked like something that, you look at and say, okay, Boston is just too good; they'll come back. Whereas in Cleveland, too, I mean, I feel that they should win too. I just felt that they just gave Indiana too much confidence of knowing that they can play with them. And they show it. They just stay in those games close, and that's what concerns me to them because I really believe Cleveland has the better team, but they're just going to have to tighten some things up. Far as playoff basketball, they just got to tighten it up because I definitely think they're the better team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think obviously, I know Boston and Cleveland are by far the better teams here.
Yeah, but you know what? Both teams, Indiana and New York, you used the word earlier, and they both are like that. They're gritty,
right?
They just dig down deep, and that's what you got to watch out for teams like that. So you got to go out there and try to finish these type of teams off because they'll grind and grind to the very end, and if you give them any space to get in there, they'll take it.
Right, and that's basically where, like you said, Indiana and the Knicks, especially, I thought the Knicks playing Detroit in the first round actually helped them.
Yeah, well,
playing a team like Detroit really helped them.
Yep, that if you wasn't gritty beforehand, you will be after that series. That's the same thing I felt with Golden State in Minnesota. I looked at it and said, okay, Minnesota should win it. But Golden State being a veteran team and then going through that, chippy, old-time basketball series with Houston, I said, that's going to be tough. But now it's really going to be tough for them without Stephen Curry. I mean, they can still hang in there, but it's going to be tough for them to they got a big chore in front of them because they got to split at the least in these next 2 if they don't have him for those games. Then I think they have a legitimate chance to still win it. But if they go down 3-1, I don't know if they can do it then.
And that's going to be the question in that series with Golden State and Minnesota is Curry. To me, he's the deciding factor in that series. Because if You're right.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's no question. That's the guy. I mean, you got to do something in regards to him. And I was thinking about in that series too as I watched it. It's a guy you mentioned, and I'm thinking, I know it's the playoffs going on, but I'm sure their GM is trying to figure out what they're going to do. There's no way I see Nas Reed staying in Minnesota if you don't pay him the right type of money, because that guy's a starting power forward for somebody. I don't know if he stay at Minnesota and come off the bench or anything. Just seeing his talent and what he got, I don't see that happening. So I'm sure they gotta start looking towards next year, because that guy is vital, and that's what I think. If Golden State doesn't have Steph playing, then they have to do something, I think, to limit Nas Reed to being effective. He's at Randall may get his, Anthony Edwards to get his, but you can't allow that guy to be scoring. And he gets some timely baskets. So we're going to see what happens, and, see if they can, well, they can't control Draymond Green, but hopefully he doesn't get another technical. I think if he gets another one, he got a 1 or 2.
Right. Yeah, I think he's got 2. The problem with Draymond is one reason why the Cavaliers have an NBA trophy in 2016 is because of Draymond.
Right.
Right. I mean,
it had a lot to do. Yeah, it has a lot to do.
Yeah, that had a lot to do with the Cavs winning game, because Draymond couldn't. Draymond cost them a game. His problem is he's getting these tacticals. He's going to hurt your team.
Yeah,
and he's got to. It's playoff basketball. We know already. Watch playoff basketball is an entire different level. I'll argue different game than the regular season. And it seems now this year more than any other year. Intensity in playoff basketball is through the roof. And it seems now this year, these on the seeds like the Knicks, the lower seeds are competing to the point where we might see upsets this year. We normally don't get the upsets in NBA. Right. We're looking at potential this year.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if a big giant if, but if the Knicks and Indiana win their series and end up playing in the conference finals, people will be like shocked, because nobody in their mind would have had them in the conference finals. No Everybody had Cleveland, Boston, and the storyline, can Cleveland beat Boston in the conference finals to get to an NBA title? I mean, wouldn't it be something if neither team got there?
Yeah, and it could happen, but this is a different, like you was talking about before. This is a different animal going on. So you can't blow games. You can't have hostile situations like Draymond Green. But I'm gonna tell you something. He made a comment, and I was talking with somebody else, and they said, "Oh, he's just making up things." I said, no, I agree with Draymond Green when he says they look at him and almost single him out of what's going on. Yeah, you're correct, Draymond. I agree with you 100%. Yeah. But it's your fault that it happens. That's the thing. I do agree with him. But if you bring yourself to the forefront all the time through the season, you build up a reputation of this guy. Now you're playing at a different level. It's playoff time. Even the refs raise their level. They're not taking certain things that they did during the season. Maybe you just going after them, berating them, and they let it go. But now it's playoff time. Sometimes they do not let it go because of that high intensity. So he's got to realize to control himself, because I do think some of the calls was not on him. It was incorrect, but you just can't go off the handle like that.
And that's right. It's like
he loses his mind.
It's like it's like, okay, when you were growing up, we had school, right? Mm-hmm. Remember, we always had the one kid, the troublemaker in your class, right?
Yeah, you always had one.
Always had one. But sometimes, and I remember it, is he would get blamed for something he didn't do because of his reputation.
Yeah. Oh, I seen
and
that.
we know. I mean, right? We saw that growing up as kids. I remember a kid. In this is in grammar school. I went to a parochial school, but I remember the nuns. We had nuns teachers, and if they had a couple troublemakers, they would just go to the point and blame that kid. And sometimes the kid was like, he didn't have anything to do with it, but he would get blamed because of his reputation.
Yep, that's what people don't understand that.
Right. And that's like human nature. And the referees with him, he's like the kid who's always acting out. And then they just have a trick, like a trigger, and they're going to give him a technical because of his reputation.
Yeah. He's out of control. They can't stop
him.
Players, Steve Kerr, nobody. He just goes nuts.
Exactly. Oh, gosh. It's too funny. Anyway, halftime of the show coming up. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. Quick timeout after this on Western Reserve Radio.
The stations that always keep you in the zone.
I love it.
It's awesome.
Western Reserve Radio, Western Reserve Radio 2, and City View Sportscast, Youngstown, Ohio.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Catch all of the spring and summer action of Cleveland Cobras minor league football on Western Reserve Radio. Follow the Cobras as they compete against teams from around the region in pursuit of a Tri-Point Football League championship. And if you're looking to continue your football career after high school, college, or even the pros, or to be part of the Cobras staff, go to Facebook at Cleveland Cobras Football or contact owner Jesse Caldwell at 330-416-3442. Be a part of the excitement of Cleveland Cobras football.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Saturday morning sports page back at you, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. 330-707-4202. Get in, talk sports. We do it every Saturday morning here on Western Reserve Radio. You get that by just Google Western Reserve Radio and get to the website and click on to listen live. And you can listen to Western Reserve Radio 24/7 and Saturday mornings from 9 to 11. Dave Clark. Touch a little bit Giannis contract. Big word rumor out there about the trade. He does have an option where he has he can be a free agent in 2027 if he opts out of his contract. We talked a little bit about with this and LeBron James and the Lakers, and maybe we'll revisit that again. The Lakers kind of in the proverbial crossroads, I think, of what are they going to do. I didn't know. I was not aware that LeBron had evidently in Game 5 has strained his MCL.
Right.
Timberwolf loss. And even if they would have pulled that game out, LeBron probably wouldn't have been able to play, that he was going to miss time.
Yeah.
But saying that, then the question is, LeBron does have that opt out. He can opt out of the contract at the end of this year. Now he can opt out and be a free agent. We talked a little bit about that last week. Giannis has got a situation. If he opts out, he can be a free agent in 2027.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's all this buzzword about him being potentially on the trade block and teams looking to trade for him. And then Giannis is currently making $48 million this year. Will make $57 million next year, and the year after that. The potential last year of the contract, he would make 62. Now they have him tied to Damian Lillard because Lillard has one more year on the contract, then he can opt out. He's a year behind Giannis in opting out because Lillard can opt out after 25, 26.
Right.
So all this talk about Milwaukee, and now we have the situation, Riley, not sure what the Miami Heat are going to do. He talked yesterday, Pat Riley turned 80 this year. He says the 80 is the new 60. So he feels great. He wants to retool the team. And I don't know if it will go as far as a retool or an overhaul of the team. But that did not look like a Pat Riley team against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the playoffs. They played poorly. They didn't show up. The last games 3 and 4 were pathetic. Maybe they thought we can't beat these guys, and they were looking at the golf course or looking at off season. But that was a very un-Pat Riley-like team we've seen in the past. So we're going to wait and see. But where I go with this is, there's a lot of speculation. Does Giannis become part of the Miami Heat future?
Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, that's the type of guy, Pat likes that anyway.
Right.
He'll do something like that, and he would fit. I'm sure he would fit there, and that front line would be something if he goes there. That's for sure.
Now, there's always the Knick people talking, could we get Giannis?
Well, we already
have
know
Karl Anthony Towns. Mm-hmm. It would be great if you had Giannis and Karl Anthony Towns, because
I think they're going after that type of thing. And it's all up to Giannis. What do he want to do? He may look at, you got to look at, okay, Miami has a championship culture within the last 15, 20 years. We got to look at it. Okay, they got a championship culture. They got there with Butler, everything. So he may want that. Or can I go to New York and bring something that they haven't had in ages?
Right.
So those guys, I really believe, when you look at Giannis, Kevin Durant, and even to a certain degree in LeBron James, can any of those guys end up in New York? Because I think they will. I do believe New York is going to try to make a splash, but so do Pat. I know Pat Riley, always been a Pat Riley fan, so I know he is also. He's going to open a new page for the Miami Heat for sure.
Yeah, and I think Riley realizes that I think he knows he has to retool the team. Now, do you want to go a full-blown overhaul? You've got Bam is under contract.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he could be part of the trade potential.
Yeah, that could be.
Tyler Hero is on contract for 2 more years. They got Andrew Wiggins there for another year, and then he can opt out.
Yeah, because they're going to want something big,
Right.
I mean,
and that's where you're looking at is where do they, factor in here. When Riley's talking about retooling, I'm not sure if they want to call it overhaul, retooling. I don't know. It depends on, I guess, how you look at that. But bottom line is, what changes is Riley going to want to make? And does Giannis's name filter into the formula. And you do have Durant out there. And, for all intent purposes, you still have LeBron. And LeBron's still playing it. I've never seen a 40-year-old player play that good in my life.
Right.
I mean, I can't remember a 40-year-old NBA player playing at a level like LeBron did.
Yeah.
In fact, I would go back and say I've never seen a 38, 39, 40-year-old player playing like that.
Yep. Not on a consistent basis like that.
No. And he's still, granted, he doesn't play quite the defense he used to, but then again, we know that.
Right.
But he could still, make the plays. He's still driving to the basket. He's still playing at a pretty good level for a guy his age. Now, the question is, how long does LeBron want to play? And that'll be the question if LeBron decides to leave LA. LA obviously in the market for a big man. That's the buzzword. Mm-hmm. They missed it. And they've got bench issues since, then now Luka's conditioning is coming into play. and that's going to haunt them.
Right. Well, that's one part that I never argued or questioned when people saying, they're saying they got rid of him because of his conditioning. Well, I know they were searching for excuses. And I know the guy Harrison was the fall guy because I don't think it was him that really wanted to trade Luka. I believe it was the new owner. But the problem is that part I always thought is true because when I seen Luka playing, I seen he'd be out of gas a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, at Dallas, I used to see that a lot of times. When he get to running and gunning and doing stuff, after a while, he has nothing left. And he's not a good defender anyway. So can you imagine when he's totally out of gas? He's not like Charles Barkley said, he can't even guard a chair.
That's what he said.
And for Barkley to say that, who was not a great defender himself.
No.
But he did have every right to say that. Because Luka doesn't. I mean, he can't. So, it's just they got the Lakers actually do have to do something big time there. Whether it's LeBron leaving, but if LeBron leaves, I'm sure he's not. I think the relationship in Miami is not there, so I don't think he would go back there.
No,
but it'll be a big city that he goes to, so it's got to be New York. Unless he just goes and get into the other locker room in Clipperland.
Would he go? Yeah, would he go basically? It's not really across town.
Yeah,
the Clippers do have a new. They do have a new place. Arena.
Yep. Yeah, but it's just crosstown.
No, it's just I don't think I could look it up to see.
I don't even know how far it is. Yeah, really.
I got to look it up. That's something. I got to see the difference.
Yep.
The distance between the Clipper Arena and the Lakers Arena. But the bottom line is that's going to be in the postseason. Now, I mean, you have the playoffs heating up, but then in the summer, there's going to be a lot of speculation with Riley obviously having made the comment, I'm looking to retool, maybe overhaul, looking to change this roster. And then, you're going to be looking at potentially does Milwaukee part ways with Giannis? They were eliminated in the playoffs first round. So are they looking to potentially make changes too? We know the Lakers have to make changes. There's no way. I mean, he did. I mean, I don't know if you want to blame the coach. Pelinka was the executive of the year in the NBA. They should take that back because they had no bench. And the Luka trade, he's getting a lot of kudos how great it was. And in the playoffs, let's face it, you and I talked about this. They did not have a good season. You don't have a successful season if you get bounced out in 5 games in the first round of the playoffs. I don't care how many games you win and how you looked at the end of the season. We all know this is all about the playoffs.
Right.
And, right now, if Boston gets eliminated by the Knicks, that'll be a dismal failure.
Right.
For the Celtics.
Yep.
And the Cavs. If the Cavs lose to Indiana, this is going to be a bad season.
Oh, yeah. Who cares about they had a great record in the regular season.
Right. And Oklahoma City, as great as everybody's championing how great the team is, Charles Barkley thinks they're going to win the NBA title, and so does Kevin Lockery, who's a great NBA analyst. He's, I believe, in his 80s. And I listened to him on the radio. He's excellent. He knows the game. He knows the teams in and out. And he thinks Oklahoma City's still the best team in basketball. If they get eliminated by Denver, again, people are going to say it's a young team that failed expectations in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And this is the sad part is the bottom line is, I know the regular season, I know people watch it, but the reality is, and it's pretty much in any sport, you got to make it in the playoffs.
Yeah,
you got to perform in the playoffs. And right now, the Knicks, who've been criticized this year because they haven't been able to beat any good teams. I believe they didn't beat Oklahoma City. They rattled off all the teams. They were 0 for 14 or some number where they had not even beat a good team. They didn't beat Boston. They didn't beat Oklahoma City. They rattled off all the teams the Knicks couldn't beat, and they were good teams, and they beat up on all the crappy teams, and they have 51 wins, but people are very critical of the New York Knicks. Well, now it doesn't matter. If they go on to beat Boston, this is going to be, they're going to be playing with house money. Yeah. Because no one expected this from the Knicks. I mean, how many people do you think out there really thought the Knicks would be up 2-0 against Boston? Everybody was thinking, can they get a game?
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
everybody was talking about sweep.
Yeah. Everybody thought, would Boston win it in 4, or would they get the gentleman's sweep in 5? And say, could the Knicks win a game from Boston? I mean, and they don't want to think it because obviously they want to go on and they want to win an NBA title. Who knows? But again, the expectation level, at least for the Knicks, has been, if they can get out of the first round, and they did, and may be competitive against Boston, Thibodeau gets to keep his job. Oklahoma City expectation is realistically, their expectation is an NBA final.
Mm-hmm.
To a large extent, the Cavaliers were at least the conference final, and lose to Boston. They can't lose to Indiana because, the expectation level of the fans based on the regular season is that these teams need to be should be progressing, basically a lot further in the playoffs. And they're basically, right now they're in really. Indiana and is giving Cleveland more than they expected, and Boston's obviously getting a hell of a lot more than they ever expected. Right. And now Oklahoma City is at the other end of the spectrum, and they're down 2-1 to Denver. And their expectation is they want to not only beat Denver, but they need to win the conference final, whoever that may be, and they ultimately need to be in an NBA final to have any kind of a quote successful season.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's nothing else. Well, they say championship chance or bust. That's all.
Right.
Other than that, it's definitely we always go back to that Golden State great record, and then didn't win the championship. That record means nobody even talks about that.
Right? Does anybody, when they lost to the Cavaliers in 2016? Did anybody go back and say, boy, Golden State had the best record in basketball?
Yep.
No. Because they lost the finals, so everybody ever forgets that record even exists. In fact, by not winning the NBA final, it almost is insulting to bring that record up because people are going to say, yeah, but you didn't win the NBA final. That record's worthless.
Yep.
And I remember in 1998, when the Yankees had the best record in baseball at that time. I believe they won 112 games. And bottom line, they were 114. New York Yankees won 114 games that year and lost 48. and were, by far the best team in baseball. Joe Torre said the hardest thing he had to deal with is they knew they had to win a World Series or that record would be absolutely worthless.
Mm-hmm.
And he's right. And he goes, in order to say we were in the argument of being one of the best teams ever, we had to win the World Series. If we don't win not get in the World Series, we needed to win the World Series in order to solidify the fact that we're in the conversation of one of the best teams ever to play. Same thing with basketball. Is if you have the best record, but if you don't win the title, that record is worthless.
Mm-hmm.
And so no matter how good like that Golden State record was in 2016, they lost in 7 games to LeBron and the Cavaliers and Kyrie.
Right.
And Kyrie made the 3-pointer. That was the shot heard around the world. That shot that Kyrie hit in Game 7 to ice the game, that 3-pointer, and you knew when he shot it, it was going in.
Yeah.
I mean, you're watching that game, you're rooting for the Cavs, obviously, but Kyrie had that ball, and when he shot it, I said, that's in. And sure enough, I mean, Kyrie had that lined up, and that ball was in. And he made maybe one of the biggest clutch plays in Cleveland Cavalier history, which gave them a world title. But going back to the other side of the coin, Golden State had the best NBA record, regular season record in the history of the NBA, and they lost.
Mm-hmm.
The record means nothing. So you get back to that. It's just like these regular season records don't really mean anything.
Right.
Like we were talking a little bit about the New York Knicks. The last time they were in an NBA final was 1999. That was the strike-shortened season. They were the 8th seed, and I believe their record was 42-40. And that was that weird year that they beat Miami in the opening round. Then I believe they beat Atlanta, and then they beat Indiana on that crazy 4-point shot that Larry Johnson made.
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And then they got into the final. Now they lost to the San Antonio Spurs and the rookie Tim Duncan, and the Spurs were clearly the better team. And Ewing had been injured and was on his last legs as a player because he was old. But the point is, you can get hot in the playoffs, and we see it time and time again where teams come out of nowhere, they get on a roll, they get lucky, and they win.
Mm-hmm.
And the regular season means absolutely nothing.
Oh, we got a call coming in for us.
Okay, great.
Okay, yep. Hello.
Good morning, Dave.
Hey, Irish Mike, how you doing?
Hey, Irish Mike, what's up?
It's fun. Nothing, just on my way to Gallaudet to do my thing at 11 o'clock, so help out the young high school lads.
All right.
Dave Clark's the world can yell at me once in a while.
Oh, come on, Irish
so
Mike.
calm, Dave, at all those games, right? They get it.
Yep.
Oh,
Kids off to the Major
yeah.
League Baseball or NBA someday or NFL. You're dashing their dreams sometimes.
Yep. Yeah. That's for
So
sure.
what are you guys talking about this morning? I just tuned in, so I'm just
Okay.
out Gallaudet this morning.
We really more NBA. Talked about the Cavaliers getting the win last night. The Knicks, obviously, big game today. Can they pull off and put Boston down 3-0? I personally think they better win 4, because if there's a team that could come back from 3-0, it is the Celtics, especially against the Knicks. So, I think
Boston has not shot the ball very well at all this series.
No. Fell in love with the
shoot, though. I think they're 25 for 100. I've read.
Yep, that's it.
Obviously, if you're shooting 40%, that's one thing. You're shooting 25, that's very poor.
Yeah, they've shot 100, and you are correct. They've shot 100 threes in 2 games. They were 15 for 60 in game 1, and they turned around and went 10 for 40 in game 2, shooting 25%. And they shot 100 threes. And the reality is they made 25 of 100.
Yeah.
And, and they've allowed the Knicks to win these games. But now their backs are against the wall, the games in New York today, but the Knicks don't play that well in New York historically. If you look at their playoff record, I've seen them blow a lot of games in Madison Square Garden. So, and then actually the Celtics come into the game 5.5 point favorite.
And you know what's been very strange about this group, guys? The Celtics, those core players I've had for the last 3 or 4 years, for whatever reason, whether it be the regular season and playoffs, they play much better on the road than they do at home in Boston Garden.
Correct.
It's been well documented.
Yes.
For whatever reason.
Yes. No, you are 100% right. If you actually look at the NBA, they do have the Boston Celtic road, and I'll pull it up, but you are 100% right. The Celtics road record this year, I believe, is better than their home record.
Yes. Yep. And you look at these second round of the playoffs and out east and west, and it's like I think I read correctly this morning that the home team has won 2 games and the road team has won 7 in these. So all these people that try to sell me that there's big regular season games in November, December, January, and February in the NBA are just fooling themselves. Right? I mean, it's January 20th and you lose a game and people overreact and say, we just lost a big game. I'm thinking, how is that a big game?
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of 82.
Right.
Well, and
you move on.
Well, here, the Celtics' home record this year is 28-13. Yeah. Their road record is 33-8. They are 5 better on the road than they are at home.
That is correct. And it's been like that for 3 or 4 years for this under this group.
I don't know if they get tight in front of the crowd. I think that could be part of it. Now, the Knicks are actually 3 better at home than they are away. So there's not a big difference with the Knicks. They're 27-14 at home and 24-17 on the road. So their home and away, it's a 3-game. They're 3 games better at home than away. So they're almost pretty much spot on even compared to some other teams in the NBA. But that's, so at least in their eyes or in their book, both these teams are pretty good road teams, and they're okay. They're good home games, but they're not bad on the road either. In fact, you can make the argument they're as good with the Knicks. They're almost as good as on the road at home. Boston is actually better, much better on the road.
Yeah.
Yep. They are.
And I thought even going last night, Pat, obviously the Cavs play game 4 tomorrow night in Indianapolis. I thought with obviously all those guys playing, I thought the only chance Indiana had to win that game is if they jumped on the Cavs early in the first quarter. They're up by 10, 12, 14 points at the, and I think it was tied after the first quarter. Now the Cavs didn't play all that well, and then obviously they had a big second quarter up by 20 at halftime. But I thought the fact that, you hate to use proverbial phrases, backs against the wall, that the only shot Indiana had to win last night is they had to jump on Cleveland early and make him just give up any hope and say, it's just not our series. That type of mentality. But for Cavs fans like myself, that did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the crowd was really into the game for Indiana. The crowd was really revved up and ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely was.
Obviously, this is all the time, but the game 4 here is really, really going to dictate. The Cavs have to win game 4. I mean, they gave game 2 away, which I think could come back to bite them and haunt them. But they've got to win game 4. They can't go down 3-1. They've got to even it up at 2-2, go back to Cleveland, and then I think they can have control of the series. Yeah. But if they blow game 4,
if the Cavs win tomorrow night, they're winning in 7 games. If the Cavs win tomorrow night, they'll win the games. They'll win 7 games. On the flip side, I think if Indiana wins, I could see Indiana winning in 6 games. That makes sense to you guys?
Yeah, definitely.
Game 5. Let's put it that way. The Cavs will win game 5 at home. The Cavs will win game 5. Right. No matter who wins tomorrow night, the Cavs will win game 5.
Yeah, I agree that. I mean, that sounds logic. Yeah. That sounds about right. And I think that if the Cavs win Game 4 and win, they're up 3-2. Then the question can be, could they take 4 straight from Indiana? Thing is, Cavs have the talent to do it. I don't know if they will do it, but and like I said, a lot of people believe if Boston wins today, they'll win the series. A lot of people believe that. Charles Barkley said it. Mad Dog Russo says it. That if Boston wins Game 3, they're going to win the series because they're going to get off the mat.
I know you're a Knicks fan, but I could see that.
No, I go one better. And Dave Clark and I believe Dave and I just agreed that not only that. No, I think the Knicks need to win 4 straight because I think that if there's a team that can come back from 3-0, it's Boston, especially against the Knicks. And I could see the Knicks blowing a 3-0 lead against Boston. And I know it's never happened in the NBA, and people are saying, well, if the Knicks get up 3-0, they've won it. I don't agree with that because I go back to 2004. It's baseball, and it's the old strange, what do they call that? Strange bedfellows. But we'll talk about it. We got third quarter in the books. Fourth quarter coming up. That's the music. We'll be back on the Saturday Morning Sports page right after this. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark, Irish Mike on the phone.
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier. Then make sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
Lena's Pierogi House is your home for the area's best variety of pierogies. Daily specials include the Polish platter, the Hungarian platter, stuffed cabbage, and halushki. Having a last-minute get-together? Lena's has you covered with a wide variety of frozen take-home pierogies and dumplings. Go to Facebook at Lena's Pierogi House to see the weekly lineup of available flavors for dine-in or carry-out. Catch the best at Lena's Monday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Tuesday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 20 North Main Street in Hubbard, or call 234-254-8532.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. Take 1.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
If you want to stay on top of your health, one simple thing to do
is take the pledge to go and get screened for the cancers that might affect you.
So stand up, cancer, and take the pledge and get screennow.org.
It only takes a minute to take care of yourself, and nothing rhymes with org.
Talk to your doctor about your health and screenings that are right for you.
Saturday Morning Sports page coming right back at you. 330-707-4202. Get in, talk sports. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark, got Irish Mike on the line. Obviously talking a lot of NBA playoffs. Maybe one of the best playoffs series in a while in the NBA. Not so chalky as we talked about previously. Number 1 seed. Actually, it's weird. Both number 1 seeds are down 2-1. Oklahoma City is now down 2-1 to Denver. Cleveland down 2-1 to Indiana. And then the 2 seed, at least in the East, is down 0-2 to the New York Knicks. And obviously the 2 seed out of Western Rockets are out of it. Now, the only thing I'd say to that is what people don't realize is, we talked last week about, Minnesota beating the Lakers in 5 games, but Minnesota was only one game, had only won one less game than the Lakers. And people maybe don't realize that is the West is so compressed. There's very little difference with a lot of those teams out West, especially when you looked at 1 through 8. Now, obviously, Memphis long gone. Golden State beat the Houston Rockets and moved on. They're facing the situation with no Stephen Curry. They can't let the Minnesota Timberwolves win the next 2, but they won't have Curry. Golden State needs to figure out a way to beat Minnesota. So that's obviously going to be some theater.
Hey, Pat, I have a question for you and Dave.
Sure.
And I don't know if they've done it in the past, okay? Maybe they did it 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I don't know. But do you think the Golden State front office and ownership and organization should get Draymond Green psychological help? Because he's got issues.
Yeah, I know.
He's got anger issues. He can't.
Yeah, he does. He's got anger issues.
Dave, he does. The other night he could have very easily been ejected from the game. I mean, he's got to know when to stop. He doesn't know when to stop.
Right.
That's his problem. Most guys in the NBA, they know they can't. These are big games now. This is not a regular season game in the middle of January where I can get dumped.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I said it earlier in the first hour. I said he is one of the reasons why the Cleveland Cavaliers have an NBA title.
Yeah.
Draymond Green is one reason why the Cavaliers have the title. I mean, I would make the argument he's a contributing factor as to why the Cavaliers won that series against Golden State in 2016, because Draymond had to miss a game. And the Cavs came back from 3-1 down.
2015, though, I would argue 2015 when Kevin Love got hurt in the series against the Boston Celtics. I do believe the Cavs probably would have won in 2015. I agree with your premise. I think the Cavs should have won in 2015 and Golden State should have won in 2016. It just got flip-flopped. You know what I mean?
Yo, yeah.
Love's
definitely.
And, Draymond Green's ejection.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah, then that's a good point. You're correct. I mean, if Durant doesn't go to Golden State, maybe the Cavaliers have at least another title under their belt too. But bygones be gone. Yeah, you can really break it down. But you bring up a good point, and yeah, I mean, you're in the playoffs, and you got to go to your team. You can't. These technicals are costing your team. You're being a detriment to the team. Correct. By getting these technicals, and you've got to control. And we even went so far, Dave, we kind of brought it up. It's like, well, you're here, Irish, right? We brought this up. You're a school teacher, okay? I grew up, Dave and I talked about this. You always had the student we all know the kid that was always getting in trouble. I remember there was a kid always in trouble. Sometimes he would get blamed and he didn't do anything because his reputation preceded him, and he would get in trouble for not even doing anything because of his history. Draymond's got this with the referees where he's got these referees, he's on their list. Yeah. You can make the argument it's not fair, but you've built your own reputation. And that's been going on ever in history of the NBA and in sports. Guys get reputations and they get on these refs' bad side. Then the refs have a quick whistle.
Yeah. Bryce Harper in baseball, the same thing. Very talented guy. He gets ejected a lot because he's got a short fuse and the umpires know it.
And they know it. And then he starts in and they don't want to put up with it.
Correct.
And they throw him out early.
These athletes go and think, the fans are paying big money to watch me play. They're paying big. And that's partly true, but you have to act within the rules, too. You just can't do whatever you want whenever you feel like it.
You got to control your emotions. You got to get it together. You're killing your team with the technicals, and you're being a detriment to the team. Correct. And I think Steve Kerr is a great coach. Absolutely. But I think after a while, you got to. I mean, I'm sure Kerr's had many talks with him, but I mean, as a coach,
I don't think he knows how to handle that. He knows how to handle it. Sometimes he handles it by not handling it.
And I think so. It could be a situation where he thinks it'll get better, and it's not.
I know.
Yeah.
And we know he's a tough guy. He's he's not going to score 25 points a game. He's going to rebound. He's going to defend. He's going to be an intimidator. He's going to do all the little things you need to win a basketball game. But, the other night, Steph Curry was pulling him away, saying, hey, man, we need you. We need you.
Right.
You got to stop.
Absolutely.
Well, the problem they have with Golden State is you won't have Curry for 2 more games. You can't go down 3-1 to Minnesota.
No.
So if anything, you can't start giving, get technicals and being a detriment to your team because you don't have Curry to make up for it.
Correct.
Yep.
And these playoffs, the next 2 games are San Francisco. They play in Frisco now, but the reality is these playoffs have shown us that home court advantage doesn't mean a whole lot. So that's why when I argue with guys around Christmas and February, all these games you want seeding, you want home court. It's like, well, look at, if you're a good basketball team, you can win anywhere, any place, anytime.
Yeah.
You got to execute better.
Sure.
Well, I mean, and you just brought it up. Boston, look at Boston's road record and look at the Knicks. The home court doesn't, in fact, I think sometimes with the Knicks, it hurts the Knicks because they get tight playing in front of that crowd. Dave, you were saying they get a little loose at home and maybe aren't, paying attention to details, or I think they get tight sometimes and then they freeze up. And I think the Knicks are a better road, and Boston is a better road team.
Sure.
So what's the advantage for Boston to have a home court advantage when they're clearly better on the road? And the Knicks are comparable team road and away. But we're seeing this too. Look at Houston. They had the home court. They lost Game 7 to Golden State at home.
After winning Game 6 on the road in Frisco.
Right. They won Game 6 to force Game 7 against Frisco, right, in San Francisco. They turn around at home and lose Game 7 and lose the title. So where's your home court advantage there?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Very true.
So you just got to be able to execute and play well, and that's all.
Right. But you get back to Draymond.
I got to get running, but you guys have a great weekend. Thank you so much for taking my call, guys.
All right. Thanks,
Irish.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, Irish Mike brought up some good points with the call. The home court in the NBA, especially this year, it seems like the home court is almost an afterthought. Dave Clark, it looks like that these teams, it doesn't matter. It's how they're playing, the way they play. Knicks winning 2 games up at Boston, which nobody in their right mind thought that could happen.
Right.
Indiana won 2 games in Cleveland. Start off. And then, Oklahoma City, the best team with the best record, split at home and got, they destroyed Denver in Game 2, and everybody thought, the series is over. Denver played terrible. But we've seen that a lot of times where we don't want to admit it, but if a team sometimes know they can't win or they don't have it, they mail it in.
Right, yeah.
And I think Denver, to some large extent in Game 2, mailed it in, figuring we got our split on the road. We'll get them in our place. And sure enough, as you watched the game last night, Denver came, won the game in overtime at home. Now, Oklahoma City has got to win Game 4 and hopefully, even up the series, or they may be out.
Yeah, Yep. They have to. They got to even it up. They can't go back to OKC, down 3-1.
Yeah, down 3-1.
Yeah. Even though you're going back home, you just don't want that to happen.
No.
Especially with a young basketball team. So we'll see just how they respond. It's going to be big, though.
You were talking about a little bit about Houston Rockets and the center.
Yeah.
Was that Steven Adams?
Steven Adams, yep.
Yeah. He's the Rockets had a good, I give the Houston Rockets and Detroit Pistons a lot of credit because, they were pretty much, they had some pretty bad years, especially Denver. Detroit was terrible last year, 14 wins. They bounced back. Even Houston, I think I got to look at but I know they had a couple bad seasons.
Yeah, they had bad ones last year too.
They had a bad season too, but they've retooled the team, but they still have one of the best coaches in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Houston's coach is he might be one of the best coaches. I know we got in trouble with Boston on off-court issues, but saying all that, he's still one of the best coaches they have in the league. So, moving forward, they've got to at least have a pretty good idea. Moving forward next year, both Houston and Detroit will probably be better. And Bickerstaff is really a good coach. I think he coached for the Cavs and now he's with Detroit, but I thought he did a pretty good job with Detroit in improving those teams.
Yeah,
so
those teams improved a great deal.
Yeah, they've got better. They were very competitive, obviously, in the first round of the playoffs. Detroit gave the Knicks all they wanted and more, and probably helped the Knicks, if anything, get ready for Boston. It wasn't a very easy series for the Knicks, and I think that helped. That actually worked to the Knicks' advantage.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's touch a little bit about the NFL and Shedeur Sanders, because that's still the elephant in the room in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
It still is.
Well, I'm glad they got to camp. And from all indications, they were pleased with what they seen in camp too. So, I just think, a lot of people say, what in the world are they doing? But really, getting two quarterbacks, young guys like that, I mean, like I said, you put Flacco to the side because how much longer he's going to play, you're not building around Flacco. So
no,
you can keep him if you want to. The everything is about Kenny Pickett, Shedeur, and Dillon, and not necessarily in that order, but that's what it's all about. And see what they can do, and really to a certain degree, I might want to keep the two young guys, the younger guys, I would say, with Dillon,
right.
And I don't even know if he's younger than Pickett, but I know Dillon has played I think 6 years of college football, but still he's a guy that might he might be able to do some things there, and maybe Shedeur too, because you can't depend. Like I said before, I've been reading some articles now that Arch Manning has been pulling back on him coming out next year. That maybe he may stay in, which you and I was talking about. I said, they talk about all these things about not having enough starts, but they weren't really pressing that down on Arch Manning. They're saying he could be the first pick. Well, let's look at how many starts he would have. I think he only started once at Texas.
Right. I think he only has one start.
One start. So even if he starts this entire college season and goes through playoffs and wins the national championship, that's probably only 15 games.
Right.
So now you go into the NFL with 16 starts. That's not what normal general managers want to see in a college quarterback. So now that's why we said we don't want to just go on the last name and do that. I think it'd be beneficial for him to stay another year. He plays another season. He got up near 30 starts.
Right.
We know he's ready, and the pedigree is already there. So,
that's Dillon Gabriel is 24. Kenny Pickett is 26. You're right.
Yep.
So they're 2 years apart. Cleveland's, I think Flacco is there. He'll be a bridge quarterback. Kenny Pickett, they didn't pick up the last year of the contract, so he's a free agent after the year.
Right.
They have to decide, do they does Pickett get released? Do they maybe release Flacco if Pickett plays really great?
Yep.
That
could happen too.
Now the question's going to be, a lot of people are questioning, why did you draft Dillon Gabriel? If you're really going to go after Shedeur, why did you draft Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur? And who knows, it's Cleveland, but the bottom line is going to be, will Cleveland keep, somebody's going to be odd man out.
Right.
And so will it be either Flacco or, my eyes, it'll either be Flacco or Pickett, unless either Gabriel and Shador play absolutely horrendous in camp. Have no clue and either show up late, don't know the playbook, something egregious, and then look terrible on the field and don't have either one. Then it's like, well, wait a minute, we're not keeping them. But I think that if Shador and Dylan Gabriel play really good and have a lot of potential, then they'll make a decision depending on between Pickett and Flacco.
Yeah. And see, and the thing about it have with that veteran group, if they want to keep Flacco, they could get rid of Pickett and maybe, just maybe, get a 7th round pick for him. But this mini camp and then the OTAs is going to tell a lot about for Dylan and Shador, because if they do well in that, then I think I'm keeping both young guys. You've been looking for a quarterback since 1999.
Right.
Yeah, I always say, did you really have one in Tim Couch? Well, we'll never know behind that offensive line. You know? And I learned a lot this past weekend watching. I told you I always like to watch that show. I don't know if it's called Chalkboard or Blackboard from NFL Network.
Right.
But talking about sacks, they was talking about Daniel Jones. They was going over all the guys in the offensive lines. Right. And we don't, how we talked about the Giants offensive line in the past, but they did a grading on them. And then they said the actual grades of the offensive line wasn't that bad there or in Chicago with Caleb Williams. The problem was the quarterback, because every quarterback got a package. If you're getting blitz, you got a check down or throwaway. You got all kind of different things they're supposed to do when they see certain things. And what is happening is they're not seeing the field well was one. And then a lot of them were trying to make big plays by holding on to the ball. And then they get sacked. So they wouldn't have that many sacks if they wouldn't do. So they showed, I think, if I'm not mistaken, did Daniel Jones got sacked 50-something times one season. Well, it showed 32 of them was his fault.
Right.
So I said, that makes a big difference in offensive line. Same thing with, I think, 60-something for Caleb last year. And it was 28 of them was his fault. Trying to extend, trying to not check it down. I'm going deep. Can't do that. So their new coach, Johnson, he's trying to reel that back, get things, just reprogram them. Let them know, hey, go. It's no problem going down or just throwing it away, living for another day. So you get those guys to learn that. I think they'll be okay. And I really think Daniel Jones learned that, because that second season when they went and upset Detroit, he was a different quarterback. And I really thought he should have stayed in Minnesota. But I understood him going to Indianapolis, because I really do believe he is going to be the starting quarterback for the Colts. And they're going to allow Richardson to be a guy that can learn. He'll still get packages, get better, and then maybe the following season be the guy.
Yeah.
And Daniel Jones will rebuild his reputation. He'll be a guy that will be picked up immediately. So
good. That's a good point. I think Jones. The Colts don't want to give up on Richardson. Obviously, being the top 5 pick, young, still talented. Just we talked about it. Is he didn't have the starts.
No. I think 14, right? Something like that.
Yeah, he only had, I believe it was 14 college starts. And you could see he can, sometimes he looks great, makes these unbelievable throws.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is it's just play in and play out. He's not consistent.
Right.
And
that's what you
it's hard in the NFL, because NFL doesn't have time to develop. They can't lose games because coaches' jobs are on the line. So you're right. I think Jones will probably win out that starting spot. Maybe he won't. Maybe Richardson might surprise us. I think they'll keep Richardson a minimum of another year, probably 2 years, and see if they can't get him on the field, because he has shown ability to play the position, but just not consistently.
Right.
And that gets back to the starts, and then that brings us back to Arch Manning. And that's why I've said it before. I really think Arch Manning does not need money. In fact, he's going to have an NIL deal more than what he would make. And that's what people are. Quinn Ewers could have stayed in college and made more money on an NIL deal.
Right.
But he went out. But I think he went to a good spot down in Miami because he might get to see action. I mean, come on. Tua, sadly, is one bad concussion away of being out. So Quinn Ewers could, actually see some play. Now, I don't wish an injury on anybody. I'm just looking at reality with Tua and his concussion history. Yeah. But Ewers could be in a good position there. Now, 7th round pick, he really dropped in the draft.
Oh, yeah. I think he's in a real good spot.
Yeah, and I think so. And I think Shedeur is in a good spot.
Yeah, I do too.
I think Shedeur, it went, he could have gone to Oakland or the Raiders and been with Geno Smith and been a backup. That's fine. But I said this last week, and I'll keep saying it. I personally think if Shedeur Sanders can play and looks really like the guy in camp and making the plays and making the throws, he's going to start.
Yeah, I mean it's
and he can win the position because he doesn't really have. Look at his competition. I mean, he's got people that he can go out and beat and and win the position.
Well, that's why I said with him and Dylan Gabriel, I'm not putting Kenny Pickett, but what I've seen of Kenny Pickett, I don't know if he just lost confidence, different things, but he was a good college quarterback. But I even like Dylan Gabriel better than Kenny Pickett. So
yeah, I do too.
I would keep both of those guys. That's just how I look at it. And I understand the Browns signing them. They had to get somebody. I mean, you couldn't go into at one time they didn't have anybody on the roster except Watson, and he wasn't playing. They had no other quarterbacks, so they had to go out and sign, a Flacco, a Pickett, and everything like that. So I understood that. I understood that part. But I couldn't see you saying, okay, Flacco and Pickett, that's my guys. I just couldn't see you doing that. You got to get this team going. You still do. People just think Cleveland is completely terrible, and I think that's far from the truth. I think they do have pieces and different things there that, the NFL every year, somebody surprises. But you have to get good quarterback play in the NFL to get by. You can get by without great quarterback play at college level, but not in the NFL. You have to have good quarterback play. So that's something that they definitely getting the two young guys in there. Start now. Start looking for your quarterback now. You might just fall into something and find out, well, maybe we don't have to use our first pick for another quarterback. We have one, and now we can build other parts of our team. And if it doesn't work out, you still got the ammo to go and get the quarterbacks you need. So,
well, one thing we talked, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders have the college starts under their belt.
Oh, yeah.
That's up. So they got a lot of starts, which I'm going to be
both of them.
Really interesting to see how they get into the NFL game. I think Shedeur is going to be a lot better, and now he's going to have a chip on his shoulder to prove the league wrong.
Right.
And I think you've got a player that's got the talent to play the position, and now he's got it. Now he's going to get that chip on his shoulder to prove how everybody was wrong.
Yeah, and Irish Mike was absolutely correct about what he said, because that came on NFL Network too, that the Browns traded up to get Shedeur once they heard Howie Roseman changing some things around, because the Eagles definitely get ready to draft Shedeur Sanders and basically looking at him as the backup for they like McKee. They like McKee. They got in there. That guy does look good,
right?
But they was looking for that other court, and he would have been
for Jalen Hurts.
For Jalen Hurts, it was perfect situation for him. So, another guy that they said also to talk about, he was talking about the guy's going to be a good player. Was they said Peyton in Denver? You'd think, why would he want that with Bo Nix? But he said at the quarterback position, you can never have enough good quarterbacks.
Oh yeah, there's never enough. And
you get somebody with talent, you get them.
Right. And teams, let's face it, if the teams that don't have the quarterback, they're not going to win. You're not going to succeed you're not getting into the playoffs. You're not going to play well if you don't have the quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the key. You got to have the quarterback to play. And if you don't have the quarterback, you're going to be out. You're not even making the playoffs. Because if you look at the history of the NFL and the quarterbacks, bottom line is you don't have those teams that don't have the quarterbacks don't win in the NFL.
And you got to find them from anywhere because think about this. Is Shanahan fired and John Lynch, are they fired at San Fran if they did not draft Brock Purdy? They would have just had our guy that got drafted that they traded up to get.
Right.
And Trey Lance and turned out to be nothing. So they'd probably be out of a job right now.
Yeah, they'd be out of a job.
Right.
That's the music. Saturday morning sports page. Thanks, Dave Clark, as always. Pat Lucia. Everybody stay safe. Do not drink. Do not drive. Stay sober and buckle up. Everybody have a great and a safe week. Saturday morning sports page on Western Reserve Radio.
You're listening to WRDB, Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, Warren, Salem, and around the world.
Sports betting to keep you entertained while sweating your bets on the Sports Gambling Podcast Live at VEASAN.
There is something to the idea of the smart teams might be zagging. You see all the best offenses in the National Football League have a fullback. For receivers, if you're slow, a lot of teams just rule you out, I guess.
Yeah, that was what always held me back.
Join Sean and Ryan every Friday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on the Sports Gambling Podcast Live at VEASAN, right here on the Sports Betting Network.
This is VEASAN, the Sports Betting Network. Welcome to the VEASAN Weekend Morning Line on VEASAN, the Sports Betting Network.
Hour number 2 of the VEASAN Weekend Morning Line. I'm your host, Tim Murray, live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. Boy, we got breaking news this morning. We've got 2 more NBA playoff games, 2 more games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. What a great time of year it really is. We're going to talk a little college baseball, too, in the final hour of the program. We're going to do it here on out. Get a little baseball primer. I was texting with my guy, Matt Grissom, who does some work for us over at VEASAN.com. You can see some of his write-ups in Bill 80's newsletter as well. I asked him, hey, how loaded is today? He goes, pretty loaded. He sent me the screenshot of all the games today. I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll dive into that. So a little primer before the selection of the bracket comes to fruition in a couple of weeks. We'll do that later on in hour number 3. More on Celtics and Knicks coming up in less than 15 minutes. We'll talk to my guy, Brian Barrett, up in Boston. Where is he on his level of confidence? Do we see that bounce back from a Jason Tatum? What are we going to get from a Kristaps Porzingis? And will they blow another 20-point lead? Just something to keep in mind there. 9-3 underdogs outright so far here in this postseason. And yeah, it's just been, for me, and I joked with Will Hill when we were doing VEASAN Primetime earlier this week on Tuesday night. Me and Will and Matt Humans and a lot of us here at the network, we love to bet dogs. Matt Humans and I, when we do our VEASAN College Football Betting Podcast, which, by the way, got a couple of episodes already in the hopper. Chatted with Ari Wasserman earlier this week if you want to check that out. But when you tune in to a Thursday VEASAN College Football Betting Podcast, you normally know you're going to get a lot of dogs. And yet, the dogs have been barking like crazy, and I have not been profiting off of it. So I'm a little bit mad at myself in that regard. So more on Knicks and Celtics. Will the dog be barking today at Madison Square Garden with a amped up atmosphere? We will find out here in just a little bit. But once again, the breaking news that just came out about 15 minutes or so ago, Derek Carr has called it a career. New Orleans Saints quarterback Derek Carr, after just a couple of seasons in New Orleans dealing with a shoulder injury, we knew he would be more than likely sidelined, if not the entirety, most of the 2025 season, but he has called it a career. The New Orleans Saints, after Tom Pelissero broke the news, and that's the graphic we're showing you right there, the New Orleans Saints have indeed put out a statement here announcing the retirement of Derek Carr, and I'll read portions of it. In late March, while ramping up his preparation for the 2025 season, Derek experienced pain in his right shoulder. It was his first time throwing a football at significant volume since recovering from both a concussion and left hand injury he sustained during play on December 8th, 2024. Eventually, medical scans determined objectively that Derek sustained a labral tear and also had significant degenerative changes to his rotator cuff. Since that time, Derek, his representation, the Saints medical team, and outside medical experts have worked together to determine the best path forward. Surgery was an option, jeopardizing the entire 2025 season, yet there was no guarantee Derek would return to the level of strength, function, and performance of play which he was accustomed to. After consultation with his wife, Derek has decided it is in his best interests of both his family and the Saints organization to retire from the National Football League. Here's a quote from Derek Carr, quote, "Upon reflection of prayer and in discussion with Heather, I've decided to retire from the National Football League for more than 11 years. We have been incredibly blessed, and we are forever grateful and humbled by this experience. It's difficult to find the right words to express our thanks to all the teammates, coaches, management, ownership," and he goes on and on. Derek Carr out for the remainder of his career. He is retired, and that is it's an interesting development. And as we look at it from a betting standpoint, and I asked this to JVT, what does this do in your eyes to Tyler Shuck, an offensive rookie of the year? I'll run through the odds that are out there right now. DraftKings 22-1, best price you're going to find. FanDuel 20-1, Circa 16-1, actually Circa 15-1, the Westgate 16-1. But as JVT pointed out, and I think he's right on this, if you wanted to bet Tyler Shuck, this news shouldn't really come as a big surprise. Now, I think it's surprising that he's done for his career, but is it surprising that he's not going to play this year? I think those are two different discussions to be had. I'm surprised that he's calling it a career at 34, but I also anticipated him not to play this entire season. So after the draft, what was that, a couple weeks ago, we came on these airwaves and I had two bets that I liked, two bets that I put in for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Unfortunately, a couple of those two bets have moved in our direction. RJ Harvey was at 50-1 when he was drafted by the Denver Broncos for Offensive Rookie of the Year. We added that to the best bets over at vsin.com. And then also Caleb Johnson was at 50-1. So those two are in the back pocket. I think at 22-1, having a starting quarterback, I think it's worth a look. Now, I'm not saying unload everything you've got on Tyler Shuck to be Offensive Rookie of the Year, but he is going to, you would believe, get every opportunity to grab this starting job, because the reality is this.